Hey kids, this is Mr. Cozy, and we are looking at video 8. Video 8 is about polynomial long division. This is a process that a lot of students get lost on, so I thought it would be good to take a day and just talk about it. So here we go. Let's divide x squared minus 3x minus 10. Divide that by x plus 2. Okay, so let me adjust my microphone here. So this is my dividend. This is what I put under the division bar. And this is my divisor. Okay? Now, here's the process. I'm only focusing on this term of my divisor, on the leading term, on the term with the largest exponent. All of the other terms are just along for the ride. Okay? And I generally count how many terms I have in my divisor, and that's how many terms I go in my quotient. So I'm going to write the first term of my quotient here. That this isn't mandatory. I think it's just easier to see when you're done. Okay, so I'm focusing on this leading term, and I start dividing that leading term into the leading term of the polynomial. So I am dividing x squared with x. I'm dividing this with this. Okay, so what's x squared over x? That is x. This is my first term in my quotient, is x. Okay? I now distribute this x over the divisor. So I multiply this x with each term in the divisor, and I write my result under the dividend. So x times x is x squared, and notice how these are like terms here. X times 2 is 2x. Okay. Now from here I subtract. I prefer to change signs and add. So I change the signs of this new line here, and I add them with the line above. X squared minus x squared is 0. These two terms should always zero out. Always. Always, always, always. Okay? Negative 3x plus negative 2x is negative 5x. And then I drop down the next term in my dividend. Okay? So I divide leading term of the divisor into the leading term of the dividend, write the result up here in the quotient. I distribute that number over the divisor, writing my result under the dividend, and then I subtract, or if you prefer to think about it, flip signs and add and drop down the next term. And then I just repeat the process, but now I'm looking at the leading term of my divisor hasn't changed, but the leading term of my dividend has changed. So I do negative 5x divided with x. So boom and boom. Okay? Dividing these out, I get negative 5. And then I once again repeat this process, but I now distribute this negative 5 over my divisor and write my result under the dividend. So negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. I then change signs and add. These two terms zero out. Oops. These two terms zero out, as should always happen. And these two terms also happen to zero out. Okay? As soon as the degree of my dividend, of what's left, is less than the degree of my divisor, this is first degree, this is 0th degree. So I am done dividing, and this is my remainder. Fortunately, I have a remainder of 0, meaning that these two polynomials divide out evenly. No remainder. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means tomorrow. But just notice here that I divide this with this and got x minus 5 with no remainder. Okay, let's take a look at another more interesting example. Let's look at x to the 4th plus 2x minus 3 divided by x squared plus x minus 1. Now, one thing that I want you to notice here is that this dividend is missing terms. I have x to the 4th, but not x to the 3rd or x squared. So I have to write those in when I write out my problem, and I write them in with zeros. So x to the 4th plus 0 x to the 3rd plus 0 x squared plus 2x minus 3. I need these placeholders because I could end up with something cubed or something squared in my answer. Okay, and I'm being divided by x squared plus x minus 1. I'm going to go 3 terms in, just like before, so I'll start my answer right here. And once again, I'm looking at these two leading terms and nothing else. So ask yourself, what is x to the 4th divided into divided by x squared? And that's going to be x squared. I then distribute that over the divisor. So x squared times x squared is x to the 4th. X squared times x is x to the 3rd. X squared times negative 1 is, oops, that's a 3rd. And then minus x squared. Sorry, excuse me. I subtract, aka switch signs and add. These two terms zero out, which is what I expect. I get negative x to the 3rd plus x squared, and then I drop down the next term, plus 2x. Okay? And now I'm looking at these two terms. So what is negative x to the 3rd, oops, that's a 3rd, divided by x squared? And that's going to be negative x minus x. And guys, remember that this is a negative. So I'm distributing negative x over my dividend. Negative x times x squared is negative x to the 3rd. Negative x times x is negative x squared. Negative x times negative 1 is positive x. And once again, I change signs and add. And once again, these zero out because that's what I want to have happen. This is 2x squared plus x minus 3, dropping down my next term. Okay? All right. So, let's keep going. 2x squared divided by x squared, because once again, I'm paying attention to just these leading terms. 2x squared divided with x squared is 2 plus 2. Distributing that 2 across the divisor, I have 2x squared plus 2x minus 2. I change signs and add, minus minus plus. Once again, these zero out, and I get negative x minus 1. Now, this is my remainder, and I know that for 2 reasons. First of all, I've run out of terms to drop down. And secondly, and more importantly, the degree of this is less than the degree of my divisor. This is quadratic, this is linear. So my quotient is x squared minus x plus 2, and my remainder is negative x minus 1. Okay? I can also write my remainder this way. I'll write out my quotient plus, and then I'll write my remainder over my divisor. Okay, so there are 2 ways of showing remainder, and you need to be fluent in both. Okay, I think this is enough for now. We'll look at more later on, but I've thrown enough knowledge at you at the moment. Have a great evening, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.